In the world of superheroes, few characters have made as big an impact as Batman. By now, just about everyone is familiar with his backstory. After seeing his parents get ruthlessly gunned down right in front of him as a child, Bruce Wayne vows to dedicate the rest of his life to fighting crime, honing in on intense mental and physical training. And, after deciding to base his crime-fighting image after a bat, to strike fear in the hearts of criminals across Gotham City, uses his family's vast fortune to help transform himself into the Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, the world's greatest detective, and, above all, Batman. With a whopping 80+ years worth of comic books, a rogues gallery of easily some of the best villains in comic book history, ranging from the Joker to the Penguin, Riddler, Two-Face, Scarecrow, and many others, to countless movie adaptations over the years, a long line of video games, and beyond. Literally. It becomes easy to overlook where the character of Batman actually came from and how he came to be. One character that played a huge role in inspiring Batman is the pulp magazine character named Zorro. A masked vigilante donning an all-black costume and equipped with an iconic rapier sword who defends the common people of the North American Southwest from a whole assortment of villains. In the Batman comics, it is even explained that the film Bruce Wayne watched at the movie theater right before his parents were killed was actually the movie The Mark of Zorro, further highlighting the deep connection between the two characters. Another character that greatly influenced the creation of Batman is the Shadow, yet another crime fighter from the gritty world of pulp magazines, often wearing a black hat, a cape, and a red scarf as he goes to war with criminals. Unsurprisingly, both Batman and the Shadow would cross over multiple times over the years. But when it comes to cinematic inspirations for Batman, one movie, released in the 1920s, is by far the biggest inspiration for Batman as far as films go. And it just so happens to be a silent horror movie titled The Bat. Released in 1926 and adapted from the Broadway hit play of the same name, the plot of The Bat is simple and fairly straightforward. The police are in a panic that a mastermind crook, nicknamed the Bat, keeps getting away with stealing valuable diamonds and large amounts of money from committing burglaries and bank robberies across New York City. But tensions only escalate when the Bat murders a prominent New York business owner, before taking off with valuable emeralds and taunting the police in the process. After the murder, the Bat leaves the city and goes to the countryside, where he focuses his attention on a large mansion that was owned by the owner of a major bank who was recently found dead. Realizing that the mansion has a secret room that apparently houses a large sum of money, the Bat stops at nothing to try to find the secret room. However, a group of people staying at the mansion, including members of the police who are trying to track down the Bat, only make matters complicated for the criminal mastermind, causing the Bat to frighten and intimidate the mansion occupants out of frustration as he tries to find the secret room before anyone else does. The Bat is a curious piece of cinematic history and a deeply fascinating movie, and while the movie does lean heavily into comedy at times, there are horror elements that are strong enough to qualify it as a horror movie, and especially two main elements. First, and most obviously, is the Bat itself, a strategic, murderous, downright psychopathic burglar who is not afraid to kill those he sees as getting in the way of his evil schemes. While this archetype has been seen time and time again in movie history, what sets the Bat apart is his freakish bat mask, with exaggerated features ranging from sharp teeth, to protruding fangs, long bat ears, and an overall ghoulish expression. The mask itself might be my favorite part of the whole film. There's something inherently eerie but at the same time fascinating about it. And the mask also serves as a very early precursor to later horror movie icons, and especially the slashers, such as Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and Ghostface, just to name a few. The second reason why The Bat is a horror movie is because of its haunting atmosphere. Since the majority of the movie is set in a large mansion out in the countryside, the audience gets plunged into a world of dark corners, large staircases, and an overall foreboding atmosphere of mystery. This setting and circumstance of a group of people facing off against an unseen threat in a large, aging house make The Bat an example of an old dark house movie. The old dark house genre was especially famous throughout the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, and the average movie of this type usually involved a group of characters who are caught in a raging thunderstorm but eventually come across a large, creepy old house or mansion that they then take refuge in. Once inside, things quickly escalate, often with murder mysteries unfolding, the discovery of secret passageways, over-the-top characters, and potential ghosts thrown into the mix, who are usually explained away through a natural explanation. The best example of this type of film is the aptly named Old Dark House from 1932, which still remains one of the most atmospheric horror films ever made. The Bat absolutely follows the typical old dark house genre formula for the most part, and its status as a horror film of the 1920s puts it in the same category as the other silent horror movies of the time, such as The Phantom of the Opera, The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, the first feature-length horror film ever made, and the classic Nosferatu from 1922. The Bat would later be remade 3 times over a span of 30 years, beginning with The Bat Whispers from 1930, which happened to be directed by Roland West, the same director behind the 1926 film, in a highly unusual case of a director remaking his own movie just 4 years after directing his original version. The Bat Whispers has a noticeably higher budget, a more elaborate plot, and unlike the 1926 version, was a sound movie rather than a silent one. Later, in 1959, The Bat would be remade again, this time starring horror legend Vincent Price during one of his busiest years as an actor, since he also starred in the movie The Tingler and The House on Haunted Hill, both released in 1959 also, with The House on Haunted Hill being a throwback to the classic old dark house genre. Finally, The Bat would be released a third and final time as a highly obscure television special, airing in 1960. One of the biggest influences that the movie had on Batman is an obvious one, that being the Bat's freakish costume, as mentioned earlier. The long ears of the mask are reminiscent of the ears on Batman's cowl, and the Bat even wears a black cape, designed to make the Bat look more intimidating, as though he was a large bat. Very much like Bruce Wayne's intention to strike fear into the hearts of criminals, by having his Batman costume make him appear as though he was a large bat, an overgrown, horrifying creature of the night. Amazingly, another major influence on Batman could be found right in the opening shot of the movie, which shows a symbol of a bat that looks almost exact to the iconic Batman logo, which changed considerably over the years, but with the common fixture of being the outline of a bat. Later in the film, we even see a bat signal being used, which would undoubtedly inspire the creation of the famous bat signal seen in the world of Batman, except instead of the bat signal in the movie being used by the police to summon Batman, the Bat uses a bat signal of his own to intimidate and scare the people that get in the way of his plans. The key distinction of how both bat signals are used leads to yet another major difference between the Bat and Batman. While Batman is a hero who defends the people of Gotham City from evil and injustice, the Bat uses his strategism and slick, ninja-like skills to do evil instead of good, using his mental and physical prowess to do evil by trying to steal as much money as possible, even if he has to murder people to do so. An example of this can be seen very early in the movie, where after killing the prominent businessman, the Bat climbs up a grappling hook to escape the police, whereas Batman would use a grappling hook to either escape danger or arrive at a scene to take on a villain, whatever the case may be. The single shot of the Bat climbing up his grappling hook just reeks of Batman, and is one of the most creative shots in the movie at that. The Bat even leaves messages at his crime scenes that are written on bat-shaped notes, which do remind me of Batman's iconic Batarang that Batman uses to throw at enemies or disable machinery. The similarities even extend to the different locations that the Bat takes place in. For example, the design of New York City in the film is evocative of the style in which Gotham City is usually depicted, with classic Art Deco buildings and a slick, unique atmosphere, similar to the Gotham City found in Tim Burton's Batman duology, as well as Batman the Animated Series. Apart from the large Gothic urban city setting seen at the beginning of the movie, the large mansion setting that the majority of the movie is set in closely resembles the locations in the world of Batman, such as Wayne Manor, which normally has a dark, elegant, and foreboding quality to it, harking back to the classic old dark house location that much of the movie's strengths as a silent horror movie come from. Officially, Batman co-creator Bob Kane had even stated in interviews that the character of Batman was influenced by both the 1926 movie and its remake The Bat Whispers, solidifying the Bat as the horror movie that came to inspire Batman by giving Bob Kane and lead Batman creator Bill Finger, who came up with Batman's trademark qualities and final design, just what they needed to flesh out the creation of the character. First appearing in May of 1939 in Detective Comics number 27, Batman would quickly become a household name, facing off against memorable villains like the Joker and being paired with his long-running sidekick Robin. Just a few years later, in 1943, Batman would see his first live-action adaptation in the form of a 15-part film serial in which Batman and Robin take down a mad scientist. In the 30s and 40s, film serials were usually movies split into weekly episodes, with each episode shown before a movie would play at a movie theater. However, film serial episodes would normally end on a cliffhanger, which meant that to see what happens next in a film serial, you would have to pay admission to see another movie the following week. Later, in 1949, another 15-part Batman film serial would be made, titled Batman and Robin. Except this time, the dynamic duo would face off against a villain dressed as a monk. Later, the 1960s would bring the iconic Batman television show to life, a colorful, vibrant adaptation that was a reflection of the Batman comics at the time, starring Adam West as Batman and Burt Ward as Robin. This series would help further Batman's status as a household name, and would introduce the general public to a whole slew of villains, including the Riddler, Mr. Freeze, Penguin, Catwoman, and of course, the Joker, played by Cesar Romero. Throughout the 70s, the Batman comics would gradually shift into more grounded and darker storytelling, similar to the very early Batman comics of the late 30s and very early 40s. But the comics would make a very sharp turn to dark grittiness with the release of The Dark Knight Returns in 1986 by Frank Miller, the graphic novel credited with bringing Batman back to his darker roots. A sharp turn that further cemented itself with the release of Batman in 1989, directed by dark visionary Tim Burton, and starring both Michael Keaton as Batman and Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Since then, there have been a plethora of Batman movies, from the Joel Schumacher duology to the Nolan trilogy to more recent films, and Batman as a character is as dominant over pop culture as ever. However, unlike its comic book counterpart, the Bat from 1926 never quite received anywhere near the level of fame and recognition that Batman has, and while it does exist as a one-off film that spawned a couple of remakes of its own, it has largely been forgotten, as though hiding away under thick clouds of fog, or silently waiting and watching in the dark, neglected corners of movie history. Despite this, The Bat is easily one of the most influential and important movies ever made, since without it, it is very possible that Batman as a beloved, world-renowned character may not even exist. And while The Bat just might be yet another chilling old dark house movie made in a bygone era, its influence makes it simply impossible to overlook. And since The Bat turned 100 years old on March 14th of 2026, it is more important now than ever for the movie to be rediscovered and reconsidered as an undeniably big part of Batman's history and movie history as a whole.